I think I'm always been goal oriented in the sense when it came to career. Like I definitely believed even before I knew what manifestation was, I definitely believed in that. So um, when I got into travel and I was working, as a independent contributor and I had a boss, I'm like, yeah, I want to sit where she's sitting. I want to do what she's doing. So I was like a sponge when it came to that. And I think it was because I was passionate about the job. It wasn't like it was just a job for me. This was like a career that I knew at a very young age. And then I was very outspoken with my bosses. Like I told them, this is my plan. That's something you hear about now more so than before. People had jobs, they stayed in them for many years, and then that was the end of that. But I definitely found my voice and used it to speak up and say what I wanted.
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop. Welcome back to the Small Business Safari. We've got another great episode for you today. We're just going to roll right into it. We didn't even do any pre-interviews because we knew this guest was going to be so cool. We have Michele Delgado from Heart Inspired Leadership. She does a great job. I'll have her explain a little bit more about what she does in just a minute. But before we get going, we have to say cheers to our fellow foodie. Hello, Michele.
Cheers. Oh, I didn't bring something. Oh, I have to. Yeah, well,
she's got.
I'm going to toast anyway. It's vodka.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So today I'm drinking a homemade moonshine.
It looked a little cloudy.
Look at that. So this is
homemade
supposed to be
moonshine.
Yeah, one of my employees gave it to me, so I'm trying that.
I see you have quite a good collection behind you of some bourbon. I think it looks
That's
like.
right. Got a lot of great bourbon and rye back there.
That's apple pie.
It is apple pie. Exactly right.
Nice
nose. So everybody thinks it's going to be about business, entrepreneurship, and scaling your business, but we're just going to talk about food the whole time because Michele. I got the chance to go on Michelle's podcast. And next thing you know, all we're doing is talking about food. And I'm like, yep. And we're just getting ready for the holidays and talking about all the great food we were going to cook. And so we're going to have a lot of fun anyway. But before we do that, let's talk a little business. Michele, who are you and where the hell did you come from?
Yeah. So that's funny you say that because we used to ask my daughter, where did you come from? Or how did you get so cute? And when she was little, she used to say, the ants made me.
That's a new one.
And my husband and I would look at each other and go, wait, didn't we have something to do with this? I mean, what do the ants have to do? So it's a running joke in the house. But so, yeah, I am a new business owner. Well, new, I say 2 years as of this month. So that's pretty cool. But I started after a long-standing career in travel and hospitality. And when the pandemic came along and travel just was not happening for anyone, I found myself impacted and decided, okay, well, rather than becoming an employee again, I'll just do something on my own. So I took all the gifts and the skills and the tools, being a hiring manager, being executive leadership, and started my own consulting and coaching in January of 2021.
Were you focused on that same industry in hospitality for your coaching?
I started out that way figuring, okay, this is a path that I know very well, but the travel industry really is still rebounding, I feel. And so their focus on spending money in that area was not there. So I work with all kinds of different industries. It doesn't matter what industry. If I'm working on people skills and professional development, it doesn't matter the industry. Would I like to work in that industry? Sure, but in a different capacity than what I was. So I think that their resilience is pretty strong being in the industry, but their shift in what they want to spend money on hasn't changed much.
Meaning they're pretty cheap when it comes to people development and trying to grow their leadership teams.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, they need it so bad, don't they? I mean, that industry is getting battered. I mean, and customers are just becoming awful.
I just saw a post today about, it was a news alert about somebody suing Southwest Airlines. I didn't get to see the whole thing. And, Southwest Airlines, when they first came out, the legacy carriers were like not even concerned. They thought, this is just another player, come and go. And then when they became a major player, it was all about their service, their goofy advertisements, the way their, flight attendants were and everything else. And now they're in deep trouble. So I think that they rode the wave for a while and, they have to go back to basics. Leadership in the travel industry, one of the things that I like to focus on is that leadership in the travel industry, like myself, we were exposed to some of the training techniques. We did DISC a couple of times. We had consultants come in, all of those things. Frontline workers who we would consider agents, they have to learn the tools. They have to learn the basics of the technology and how to have basic customer service. But that middle management that kind of sits in the middle, like if we're going to talk about food, it's the middle piece, the best part of the sandwich, doesn't really get the attention that it needs. So what happens is frontline workers...
You're talking about a club sandwich?
Yeah, like a good Italian sub.
Okay.
Yeah, right. No club. I was thinking Italian sandwich too. Where are you going? Huh?
I like the edges as opposed to the middle. So I was trying to figure out what the middle and the club maybe is.
No,
I was
the middle of the.
I was trying to understand the metaphor.
I like that. It's the meat, right?
It's the meat that doesn't get the real attention.
Hello?
The look you're giving me is just pure disdain.
It is. I can't believe how long have I known you? Do you not know me, Ellen? Oh my God.
Sorry, Michelle.
No, that's okay.
I was trying to understand.
Yeah.
And then I got hungry.
When you think of frontline, they get trained and, they're like doing a great job and then they get pushed into middle management and then they either sink or swim. And then leadership either comes in at a leadership level or they came in from someplace else and born leaders. And so they get all the bells and whistles. And so a lot of times people are set up for failure because they're not given the guidance, the tools, and the mentorship, if you will, to get up to that next level.
There we go again, mentorship.
Let's talk about that one for a minute. That's a key thread of something we've listened to and heard a lot on our podcast. Did you have a mentor over your life or somebody who kind of got you into this career and gave you this spark and said, hey, this is the way to go?
Or maybe told you something that you didn't want to hear?
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
No, I actually got into this career at a very young age. It sparked my interest at a very young age. So my mother was a school teacher and she had off in the summertime. So we did too. And she had a friend I grew up in Long Island. She had a friend who had a swimming pool. And we were out there in the summer, relaxing by the pool. And this woman is on the phone calling in reservations because at that time there were no computers to do it. Quoting my age here, but I'm like, Ma, what's she doing? Oh, she's working. Working? What do you mean she's working? She's got a bathing suit on. She's sitting by the pool. She's got a drink in her hand. I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So it sparked me at a very young age. I actually went to travel school, learned all about that, and got into it at that age. I would say mentors later on were some of the bosses that I had that were really great mentors. Yeah,
that's good that you talked about this. So you got that spark from the lady at the pool. That's pretty cool. But and then
at the pool.
Yeah, so there you go. I think if I would have said that would have sounded really bad. I got a spark from a lady at the pool. Do what? I'm not talking about.
That goes without saying.
But that's true. It's the way you say it too, if you know what I mean. Yeah. What? You can't say that either. All right, let's get back to this. So you help people obviously with the middle management and the meat in the center. I love that part. And that's because as you grew up in the hospitality industry, you started to see that niche. And but of course, they're the ones not buying, but you're seeing it. What did you do as you rose through the ranks to kind of set yourself apart or continue to have that successful run up the corporate ladder that you had?
I think I was, I'm always been goal oriented in the sense when it came to career, like I definitely believed even before I knew what manifestation was, I definitely believed in that. So when I got into travel and I was working, as a independent contributor, and I had a boss, I'm like, yeah, I want to sit where she's sitting. I want to do what she's doing. So I was like a sponge when it came to that. And I think it was because I was passionate about the job. It wasn't like it was just a job for me. This was like a career that I knew at a very young age. And then I was very outspoken with my bosses. Like I told them, this is my plan. That's something you hear about now more so than before. People had jobs, they stayed in them for many years, and then that was the end of that. But I definitely found my voice and used it to speak up and say what I wanted.
That must have been hard, especially as we talked about that. I don't know if everybody in the podcast can get this, but Alan and I are not, we're not female.
No.
And so we didn't have to grow up with with what you did. So when we were in the corporate world and having to come up there, talk a little bit about how you were able to navigate that as a female and try to use your voice, but also get ahead, because we were just talking about this off air before we talked to you, is that it must be so much more difficult to get up into the corporate world without having, again, being a man. I mean,
yeah,
basically the sexism is there.
Well, what we were saying is I think as a female, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is like, you always have to be on.
Yeah.
Whereas, guys can just kind of be guys, and then you can be business guys, but you can also just be guys.
Yeah.
Whereas, anyway, go ahead and talk. Let us know.
Well, first of all, I think it has a lot to do with the industry I was in. I know I've spoken to women who are in tech, and they have a hard time because there's definitely a male dominance in that industry. Being in the travel industry, my bosses were all female until later on. Like the top leadership presidents then were male, but day-to-day employees around us, directors, those levels, they were all female. So we were kind of like, we supported each other in a lot of ways. I did experience that. What would be the best way I did experience that toughness from a male that, you need to stay quiet when it came to certain clients that I dealt with. Some were more advanced than others, but there was definitely that tone like, no, I'm not going to address you. I'm going to address your boss, who's a male, while we're both in the same room.
Yeah.
I can remember one specific time I had a client who I had for a long time. He was always prickly. Let's just put it that way. That's the nice way to say it. And
she's from Long Island. And she just said that. Dex, you want to talk about really softening it up, huh?
Wow. Is this going to be that buttoned up?
I don't know. She did say, did you say you have in-laws in Kansas or your daughter?
Yes, I do.
Yes. She's trying to play to the Kansas crowd.
Are they listening?
I don't know.
Are they listening?
Well, wait, I got to tell you something. Kansas crowd or not, I was with my daughter-in-law last week. We have a great relationship. We went out to make dim sum. We were at Sur La Table to learn how to make dim sum.
Oh, see, I'm getting hungrier.
Prior to going, she's like, oh, you want to grab a drink? Of course. We knocked back 2 dirty martinis and then decided to cook. Who does that? But we did.
That's the way you should do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. High five. It was great. But she sent me for Christmas. She was a little nervous about it. So she asked my boss. And it's an oven mitt that says, bitch, I am the secret ingredient.
Oh my God. Now we're talking like
that needs to be on an apron.
There we go. I love it. All right. So
I think I'm going to find out if they do make the apron, because I think I have to, like double fist it and then wear the apron as well.
Doubling down. I like it. All right. Let's get back to the prickly guy.
Was it a boss or a customer?
It was a prickly customer. Yeah.
So
it was a customer who was very prickly. Okay. And we were in a room, we were doing a review. He always hated to talk about travel. I don't know why, but he was just a complainer. I'm there with one of my direct reports and my boss, who's the president. And he is addressing me in the room as she and her. And I'm sitting right there in the room and just talking like nonsense and stupidity and what have you. My boss definitely stuck up for me a bit, but not as much as I had hoped. And I'm not a crier. I've been known to make people cry, and I'm not proud of that, but I have done that.
I think she's a little proud.
I actually, welcome to the club, Michelle. I'm pretty sure Alan can't claim that, but I can.
Oh, but I have a son who is a soccer coach, and his first day at practice as a soccer coach, he texts me proudly, "Dad, I made 2 kids throw up." And I'm like, I'm supposed to say, "Good job, son"?
I would say, "Attaboy."
No.
Keep them going. Hard nose. I like it. All right, Michelle.
I would have asked, well, what did they eat?
No, I'm like, where did I go wrong?
Not my fault.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Alan. So
I'll tell you the
part
quick
of the
cry
tough love
story.
leadership model, right? You can make people cry. It's okay.
Exactly.
Well,
so we come out of the
making me cry
conference
right
room
now.
in their building, and I start to shake, and you could see the tears coming down my eyes. And my boss and my direct report, "Oh, don't get upset." I said, "Don't get upset." I said, I'm so angry that this is the emotion that's coming up. I don't know where it's coming from, but that's the emotion. Like, I wanted to sucker punch him so badly for what he said, but I couldn't. So I cried instead. But I think that was the first time I realized, oh, this is not just a safe space anymore. There is protocol. There are times when I need to adjust myself.
So if we wouldn't have had COVID, do you think you would have stayed in this industry or taken the leap that you did? So that's why I want to get into this a little bit. I chose to take a leap, and then the recession hit me in the face as I jumped up and just smacked me right back down. You obviously were put in there. Would you have done it, do you think?
No, I don't think so. So I look at it as it was the gift that I never knew was there for me. I was in a great position. I was learning still, because it was luxury leisure as opposed to corporate, which I knew like the back of my hand. We were making good money. I traveled a lot. I was able to go on nice vacations.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
It sounds like Chris's life, actually.
Well, but funny enough, I just booked another one.
Did you really? Where did you go? Where are you going now?
We're going to Acapulco.
Good Lord.
Oh.
You may as well get dual citizenship.
I know. Well, I'm going back. So my buddies went down there, and they have a place there, so they're going back, but they usually rent it, but they're going to stay there for the next couple of months. And they say, "Hey, you guys ought to come on out." I'm like, free place to stay, Acapulco, February. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, that didn't take much, right?
No, that was pretty easy.
It doesn't take much to get Chris to go do something else.
Yeah. Well, anyway. So it's not about me, Alan. It's about Michelle and what she was doing. Okay. Thank you.
So where were we? I forgot. We were talking about
staying in corporate.
You had a good life. You were intoxicated as well. I was too. I mean, I think, I was intoxicated with the whole world of, making big bucks, had the corner office, 400 people working for me. You had travel, lifestyle, leisure, luxury. Now I chose to go, but obviously you had that choice brought to you.
Well, and we've talked about that in the past, where sometimes entrepreneurs, it's in your DNA from the day you were born, and then sometimes circumstances force you to be an entrepreneur. And it sounds like that's what happened to you, but you're thrilled it happened.
Yeah, and I think it's also circumstances for the personal life, because, I'm not I'm not 20 or 30 where I have a lot of years that I need to work and make an income. And if it did happen to me at that age, I might have become an entrepreneur. I just don't know. I think that the timing was just the right timing for me.
And listening to your story, and I don't know you very much, but I'm going to tell you I do, because I think listening to you and your story from the time you saw that lady in the pool and doing what you did and being independent goal setting, I do think you had the entrepreneurial streak. And I think a lot of times your industry is a lot different than the ones I grew up in, which was manufacturing and banking and technology. But I feel like they beat the entrepreneur out of me. And put me back in the place and say, well, look, you stay in here with the lotus flower, and we're going to feed you all this beautiful money and trappings, and we're going to tell you how good you are, and you just stay right here and don't you worry about it. And now I got out there. It's hard, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I'm so glad I did it. And I said this on another podcast. I was more afraid of being 60 and saying I never took the chance than being 60 and saying, well, at least I made it. So I had to do it. I had to go take that chance. And I felt the same with you, listening to you. And now you're out and you're kind of in that free world of that wild world of small business ownership.
Well, what's interesting about this situation to me is, for you, Chris, you actually premeditated your leap. It was in your book.
It was. Did I mention that?
No, I mentioned it this time. I brought it up first.
Don't forget to go out there. It's on Amazon. It's called From the Zoo to the Wild, your guide to entrepreneurial freedom and wealth.
Great read, and Chris will autograph it for you if you send him some money.
That's right.
And so, but the fact is, you premeditated it, and so you put together a business plan. You thought, and then you leapt when the time was right. Michelle, on the other hand, just sort of was kind of forced into this situation. So the things that come to my mind are like, how did you set up your pricing, and what kind of services did you decide to offer, and how long did it take you to put all that together? I mean, you had to kind of backfill a business plan.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry, Chris, did that hurt to say that?
Yeah.
I hate to say good question. We always keep track of who has the best questions, and Alan's now up 1-0. Okay, anyway.
Oh, okay.
So how did you figure all that out?
Well, so first of all, I decided that I needed to get some coaching certifications just to justify what I did, whereas there are others who, just naturally go out and do that. I had a mentor. I had a very good friend who's an entrepreneur for many years, and she was kind of like, well, why don't you just go do it? And I decided, okay, let's try it. During that time that I was doing my certifications, I was still looking for a job, and it was a joke. Some of the things that were coming up, because there was ageism, there was people still losing jobs, there were companies that were closing left, right. It was just a hot mess. So come January, it was like, okay, let's brainstorm and come up with a name. So Heart Inspired is the name of the podcast. Heart Metrics is the name of the company. And so I filed for my company name. I had a great network, inner circle of people who are graphic designer, someone who could help me build a website, all of those things. I had some support in figuring out pricing. There was an exercise that one of my mother's friends, who my mother was an executive coach, shared with me that my mother used to say, which was, what's the number that comes to mind? Say it out loud, look in the mirror, say it again, feel it in your gut, and just say, my fee is X.
You know what? $1, $2, $3, $4. Shit.
That's not going to work.
Deal. Well, let me tell you how I started my business.
Yeah.
Because I needed that coaching. Because $80 an hour does not get you to $1 million. Let me just tell you, because I did start my business with a handyman business, $80 an hour. And that's a lot of money to get to $1 million.
Yeah, and at 80, you were probably a little gun shy saying 80, weren't you?
Actually, I was. So back to we're going to get back to Michelle in a minute. But when I came out, $80 an hour was a lot of money. And they're like, well, prove it. I mean, are you any good? And I'm like, you're right, I'm not. We'll do 68. There you go, confidence.
So that gets to something I'm dying to ask you about.
Sure.
You're the first person I've seen on, I don't know if it was a bio or the website, where you talk about the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And the reading I've done on the imposter syndrome says that it tends to be more of a female thing.
That's correct.
Yeah. I had it so freaking bad. And I know so many guys that have imposters. I reject the fact that it's more female, but it's a real thing. Do you know what it is, Chris?
No, you guys are going to have to enlighten me a lot.
Okay, so I'll tell you my version of it. I grew up pretty poor. My father was a hellfire and brimstone minister who made $75 a week. Woo! Mom was a bookkeeper. I'm just selling crap to make any kind of money as a kid growing up. I had nothing. No silver spoon. But I get into a company, start working my way up, and all of a sudden I'm a vice president. And I'm going to country clubs, and I actually get to join a country club. And all of a sudden this feeling comes up, and I'd never been to one. And I remember I was at Cherokee Town Club in Atlanta, and there's people with white gloves serving me things. And I'm like, when are they going to figure out I don't belong here?
Yeah.
And then, the fact that I was a vice president and I had all these department heads that were direct reports, when are they going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing? And I mean, that ate me alive for years until I actually had a mentor, who kind of explained I'm where I am because of the character that I have and what I do and what I bring to people and the leadership that I have. And I'm not expected to know everything. I should just be able to make good decisions. And it just totally calmed me down at that point. Not that I always made good decisions, but I tend to make good decisions. But yeah, I just, that imposter syndrome thing is a real deal for men and women.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, Michelle, what's your take on imposter syndrome?
I think the difference between the men and the women is that women speak emotionally more than men. They admit to more of what they're feeling, which I'm sure you've experienced.
And maybe it's because I have 3 older sisters and no brothers. But that was the training I had.
Yeah, you keep quiet.
That's a different topic.
Them talk. That's for a different show, right?
Different podcast. That's called therapy.
Yeah. You're looking at me as scant.
We'll talk about siblings because boy, can I tell you stories. But anyway, it's funny because once you realize that it happens, and I did a whole talk on this for a client of mine, a speaking engagement, and believe it or not, I'm sure you've heard of the actress Viola Davis.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure you've heard of Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
Of course.
And they both speak about their great amount of imposter syndrome that they have.
Wow.
So you can clearly see it happens to all of us, and it doesn't matter how successful you are. You're always going to have that, they're going to figure me out, or I'm really not supposed to be doing this. Who am I to be doing this kind of work? Or
and even
Chris,
who's very self-assured, was still worried about asking for $80 an hour. I mean, there's an element of the imposter syndrome there,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I think that's a great concept for everybody to take away, especially if you're not picking up what they're putting down. I think the imposter syndrome, it's for a lot of us, maybe said a different way because you're a man, you don't want to say it, but you're not confident, but
it's an insecurity.
Fake it till you make it. We've heard that before, these other things, and it's okay. But you're right. There's times where you sit there and go, oh my gosh, what have I just done? I can't really run a business. I can't scale this thing to 40 people. I can't do all this. I don't know what I'm doing. I used to be in corporate America, and maybe I'm just not as good as I thought I was. Yeah. And so everybody goes through it, the insecurities, and you have to especially embrace it when you're an entrepreneur, because you have to get over it pretty quickly and get after it and make things happen.
Yeah. I had a conversation with somebody, a guest on my show, and we talked about it. And I said, well, now it comes, I recognize it comes up a couple of times a day sometimes, and you go, oh, look who showed up. How are you? Great. I'm not ready for you. Bye-bye. And dismiss it. If you almost acknowledge it and just let it go. Because
I've done that. I've done that
feed into it.
In Home Depot. I've been walking through aisles talking to myself, and people are looking at me. But it's usually like, "What the hell did you just do? Why did you start this business? What the hell are you doing? Do you need some help, sir? Yes, but I don't think it's going to be here in these aisles. Is there a therapist on staff here at Home Depot?"
That would be great.
That's a new business vertical for Home Depot. Is the therapist?
Oh, they should have a business therapist in there.
You know what? Walmart has a great. You could get your hair cut, you can get glasses, you can get keys made, you can go food shop. Why not have a therapist office in there?
I think that's genius. I think we just invented
We just
something.
solved all world problems.
Honestly, which reminds me of, so my wife decides she's going to go to the Walmart. She passes the Target, goes to the Walmart in her area. I'm like, because it was a better deal. And she goes down there, and I think it's like 10 o'clock at night. And she comes back, and I mean, she is just white as a ghost, and she's an Italian gal, and dark skin. I'm like, what happened? She goes, you'll never guess what just happened. She goes, I was checking out, and this guy took his cart and just slammed through everybody in the aisle and just went through everybody, and then went screaming out the door, and then he was ripping his clothes off. I'm like, you're right. So now I think, Michelle, you're onto something. I think Walmart ought to start offering therapy.
Who do we connect with on LinkedIn to make this suggestion? I think that we should start this project right away.
Right. Let's get this going. I think another business idea. Genius, brought to you by the Small Business Safari and Heart Metrics. Co-sponsored, co-joined. I love that. So as you took the leap and you got into it, did you have a client? Did you have an established base? When did you get that first dollar? Because as one guy told me, you're not in business until you get that first one.
Actually, it was a travel client. And I partnered with a very good friend of mine who we do some collaboration with, who's also in the travel industry, as on the recruiter side, and he wanted to do some training for and to recruit for independent contractors. Because believe it or not, even though I was in the as an employee, part of my role was to help support independent contractors build their business and create business, or bring in new who wanted to become independent contractors. So I had a sense of, okay, have a business plan, have some pricing, how do you set up your social media, all of those things. So he knew the company I was with before. So I did a couple of workshops for some new independent contractors for him. That was, I think, May or June of that same year. So that was my first client. After that, I had a couple of little odds and ends things. I started to get more certifications. October of 2021, October 2021, I got a client through networking, referral, whatever. And that was that was a client who I was doing some one-on-one coaching for, who signed up for 6 months. So I was really excited about that, doing some diversity work with him. And then I started to get, a little bit more momentum on that. This past year, it's so hard to say last year. I mean, we're just 4 days into the new year, but last year I did a lot of professional development and career coaching. So I had, a lot more momentum building up from that. But
nice.
It's been nice.
So you've been at it for 2 years. I remember when I first started, I said, you know what, I am going to, and of course, all the common knowledge and the industry standard was it's going to take you 3 years to break even in the business I'm in. And I'm like, now I'm way smarter than everybody else. It'll be 16 months. Don't you worry about me. 2008 happens.
Yeah. How'd that go?
3 years and 2 months later, I finally started breaking even. So I was 2 months behind the curve, getting my butt kicked in. So you've been at it, and obviously not the overhead that I had, buying trucks and hiring people and putting equipment on the road. So you're off and running on your way to a successful path. How would you define success where you're going now in your career?
I would say for me, I don't know about for anybody else, but for me, success is feeling confident that I have credibility in this space, that I belong in this space. Yes, imposter syndrome is going to come up.
I was just going to say that sounds like a variation of that.
But, there's confidence, and then there's confidence in your credibility that you can deliver in all the areas you want to deliver. Because when I first started, it was like, okay, coaching and consulting, I knew I didn't want to be the life coach necessarily. I wanted to stay more in the business because I have such a strong operations background. I really wanted to stay in that strategic space. And so knowing that the pandemic impacted a lot of those things, that was a little bit hard. So I was throwing pasta up against the wall, see what sticks. And I was saying, oh yeah, I could do this, again. I could do that, I could do this, whatever it was. Now I'm really starting to narrow it down more. So when I think about when I started, it was January when I established, kind of put the flag up. It wasn't really until May or June that I really started. So it's been a year and a half, really.
Yeah, you're going through a lot of things. I think people talk about this a lot. When you start, you have a plan. Well, I did. As Ellen mentioned, I worked on my business plan for 8 months before I actually launched. 6 months in detail and 2 months in the prep to go. But I had a plan, and I still have that plan actually with me, and I continually update it. But you got to find out where you're going to be good, where your niche is. In the beginning, and I've said this before, I would do anything to anybody at any time to make $80 an hour. And now I learned, we don't do gutters, we don't do roofs. There's things we don't do. We niche down. But I've also learned that we can expand and do remodeling. We can do it very well in the bathroom, kitchen, and deck remodeling space. So you're going through that evolution that I think everybody goes through, which is fun. And I think if you embrace that part, people think all the time, he's like, well, okay, not people, this guy. That's me. Said, oh my God, I wasted
for the
so
listeners.
Much.
He's got two hands pointing at himself.
Right here, big guy. That's right. When you point at somebody else, they're 4 pointing back at you. But So I found, I was like, man, I wasted so much money chasing this or trying that. And I tried to stick back at it. It's actually, there's only 3.
How many fingers do you have point back at yourself?
I just heard some guy say that to me. And
point different.
4. Yeah, I don't. Anyway, we're talking about fingers. I'm talking about losing money. Okay. Very serious stuff. So, so that's how I had to learn that it's like, okay, you can't do that. Nope. You can't do that either. No, you learned that. All right. Don't you ever touch a roof ever again. And those are the things you just got to learn. So you're going through that as well. I think that's something I'm still doing here. And I am 14 years into the Trusted Toolbox right now.
Yeah, 100%. I actually had an example of that today. So I had a strategic call with a friend of mine. She goes, so what are you excited about with your business for 2023? And I said, well, I definitely, I got a taste of doing speaking engagements last year. I want to continue those. I want to continue working on developing some learning and development programs for women in leadership, given that I am one and have experience in that area. But on the career development side, the one thing that I will be passing along to a colleague of mine who I trust implicitly is the resume, chasing those people who want to do resumes only. I really want to focus on, okay, you need a strategic plan in how to find a job. You need some help with your delivery, your pitch, how building confidence, because we do record people so that they can see themselves when they're in an interview.
Isn't that super powerful?
Oh my gosh.
It's hilarious. I mean,
it is hilarious. I've had people who say, please don't show it to me. I'm like, you will not learn unless you watch it. So you have to.
I
said, I
don't
care
all
what you do
smooth.
with it afterwards. Yeah. Exactly. So
well, I love that. I love that niche. I mean,
yeah.
So what's a typical charge for something like that?
So if I'm doing a full 3-month program for somebody where we're doing soup to nuts, including the resume, I'm doing it for $1,750.
Yeah. I mean,
$17.50. That's pretty good.
No, $1,750.
She doesn't have the Chris Lalvani model of pricing.
She obviously had a better mentor.
Way better. All right. So the one failing, I said I did a lot of things right in my business plan. The one big thing I did is I kept my pro forma close to my vest. And I just told the story again, is that, so I'm in my business 4 years and I'm thinking now, okay, things are starting to look pretty good. And I have a very good mentor of mine. And he's talking to me and I'm showing him around the place I'm subleasing. And he goes, how you doing? He goes, yeah, I'm doing good. He goes, what's your net? And I said, 20%. He said, really? In home services? Wow. Chris, I've been at this for 15 years. I've never gotten above 11. I said, well, really, it's more like 3. He goes, oh, yeah, that's what I would have expected. He said, when you're first starting out, I mean, it's a hard business. It's a low net model, and that's the way it works. And
it is.
But you got to have that conversation. So you can sit there and listen to this podcast and go, oh, my God, this guy's an idiot that he ran a business this low. But if you don't have a mentor who helps you, then I couldn't get back up to those numbers I was supposed to be at. And
I actually told somebody that who was, the marketing piranhas. I will call them that because they come out of the woodwork from everywhere. They're like,
well said.
Oh my gosh. And they promise you the stars, sun, and moon. I go, okay, if you're promising me this, then that means you're promising every other person in LinkedIn. So I've learned to steer away from them. Unless they have a good story and they make me laugh, then I'll engage in conversation with them.
So you could be a marketing piranha.
I could be a marketing piranha because I'm making Michelle laugh. I can talk food.
There you go.
And,
See,
I can make you number 1 on Google.
Yeah.
Easily, like everybody else. I just found out that you could be a number 1 bestseller on Amazon by buying your spot.
All right. So back to the book secrets. Yes, I could have done that. I chose not to. And
for the one time in your life, you weren't slutting yourself out.
I know. I was. I thought about it. But you're right.
I could have pimping. Oh no, slutting. That's right.
I identify with all those
semantics. Don't you think?
I identify everyone.
I was going to say
I am my own,
but whatever.
You're trying to keep it clean.
I was trying to keep it clean.
Yeah, from the lady from Long Island with the 2 mitts that say, you know what? You're not the secret ingredient.
I should have brought it with me so I could show you. All
right, so back to the marketing, because I want to. That is another big thing you learn when you get out into business is that people extend their hand to help, and I think that's number one. A lot of people do want to help, But number two, there are some people out there who would definitely false prophets, man. I'll make you number one on Google. Really? You're going to make me number one on Google. How many other people did you say that to today? Just 450?
And how many people have you actually helped get number one on Google?
Exactly right.
Well, it takes time, and it's all about the SEO and everything else. But what happens with Google is they change their algorithms so many times that you could be number one this week, and next week you could drop to number 3. And then next month you drop to second page, which is where nobody wants to live. I really don't care what page I'm on. I mean, it'd be nice, but
you're not finding people off Google anyway, not in your business. This is going to be networking, making those personal connections, right? Yeah, that's the way.
100%.
Yeah, love that.
But when I think about, when I told somebody who was marketing and she wanted to, she was pitching the whole idea of me finding bigger clients, better clients, more, whatever, high paying clients. And I told her what my pricing was. And I had already had increased a little bit at that point. She says, oh, you could be making so much more than that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, yeah, an executive could afford for sure. But some of the people who I'm still in this, young business, those people have a hard time with investing in their futures. And so I'm not looking to gouge them to a point where, and what happens if they don't get a job? Or what happens if they're not satisfied? I have that guilty feeling that I'm going to give you 110%, but I'm also not guaranteeing you a position where you're going to be 100% happy.
I also feel like, you put personal value in your time and what you're doing for them. And again, I also look at this as a part marketing play, because $1,750 today for one client opens up doors for $1,750 a couple more. But 3 years from now, when they come back to you and say, all right, Michelle, what else do you do? Well, where are you at? I have no idea where I'm at. I want to go to a new place. All right, well, let's talk about coaching. All right, well, how much is it? Well, today it's $3,000. And now they're like in a position where they say, well, 3,000 sounds like a good idea for me to find my next landing opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think longer in the career, I think people would do that. So I think, again, back to anybody pricing their business in the beginning, and Alan's brought this up before, in the beginning, are you really worth it? And again, you got to think about, what you're worth, but can you build? And what I said when I started my business is I want to do small jobs to as many people as I could to get my name out there. And here I am, 14 years later with 18,000 clients, and you just go, okay, now you've done it. In the beginning, you had to stay away from the big jobs because you wanted to keep going with small ones. And in this case, I would look at it as a little bit of a marketing play, right? Or play, not play.
Michelle, I got a question for you. Since a lot of our listeners are people thinking about jumping into business, or maybe they're new in their business, and the way you kind of got thrust into being an entrepreneur and had to backfill your business plan, and those are my words, not yours. What are some of the lessons you learned the hard way?
I wish I had the opportunity to have 6 months to build that business plan.
Yeah.
That is huge, because when I think back on when I was mentoring folks in the travel industry who were coming into the industry, a lot of them just thought, oh, I just want to travel for free and have everybody pay for my trips for free. And so I can see the world. And it's like, no, you need to actually sit down in the desk and do the work, because the only way you're going to make business is if you sell to clients. You don't just travel for free. So there's this thing about being, maybe the best way to say, in love with the idea, but not seeing reality. Like it all looks pretty from the outside. You have this great vision of you're going to make lots of money and you're going to have all these fabulous clients and everything else, and it's really kind of sticking to the reality. So the first thing is I wish I had the time and that instinct to do that business plan right away.
I've said this before. I made a lot of mistakes before I started my business, and guess what? Those didn't cost me any money. By building my business plan and using mentors to help me vet my ideas, it kept me from making some dumb decisions. It kept me out of a couple businesses I was going to try to buy. It kept me out of starting a business that would have failed miserably. So that's a big thing that people, I think, forget about with the business planning process. If you do it while you're employed, or you do it while you don't need the money, it makes the process, as long as you take it the right way and do it the right way, it saves you a lot of money down the road. And it did help me in the beginning, all jokes aside. But I made plenty of mistakes way after that, and continue to day after day after day.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely did. I think that some of the mistakes I made was, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. I was operating from the same speed and mindset that I operated in the travel industry, which is that you spend a lot of time in reactive mode because you are impacted by everything that's happening in the world. And you spend a lot of time pivoting because you're in disaster recovery mode. You know, we were impacted a lot. And so there was never a time to really slow down and plan, even when we wanted to in the travel industry, because as soon as we decided to plan something out, some other big thing happened. You know, the economy happens, world affairs happen, terrorism, natural disasters, all of that. As soon as that drops in your lap, every planning decision that you ever had has to stop, and you have to figure out what's your plan for this next scenario.
You know, a good mentor of ours, he was actually on mine, I should say, and he was on our podcast, Chris Hanks. I'm going to steal his phrase. He said, firefighters make the worst entrepreneurs because they're so reactive to the moment. And you just talked about, as an entrepreneur, exactly you have to put your planning hat on, your proactivity hat on, or whatever that's called.
You just made up a word.
I did. Yeah. I think I'm going to coin that one. I'm going to call myself
between that and the therapist in Walmart, I think we're onto something. Checked off lots of things here today.
I think we're on a roll. So
we're going to help Walmart become successful.
You know, they need some help, and I think they need us. So I think Heart Metrics and the Small Business Safari are going to make that happen. All right, Michelle, I have loved our time together, but we're coming to the end. But before we go, what is your favorite dish to make? We didn't get to talk food. Your favorite dish. Like if I said, I'm coming over, Michelle, you need to impress me. Don't be an imposter. Give me your best meal.
I really have a lot, but I haven't made it in a while. I thoroughly enjoy making it, but there's nothing like a good paella.
Oh, I'll be right over.
Oh, she had me at the paella. Oh, so last summer I got to go to Spain. In it. Last year I got to go to Spain, and we're threatening, and I'm trying to get my friend to come back on, or come on the show, and we're going to do a paella cooking class of one of our podcasts.
Oh my gosh.
With them from Spain. So I've been threatening. We're going back and forth. They just had, again, another month off because it was Christmas. But yeah, paella. Oh.
Well, and I haven't made it in a long, long time. But, you know, saffron, which costs like, $50 for this little tiny thing. Yeah. You have to have the fresh saffron for the rice.
Oh, and fresh saffron. Oh.
Yeah. Go ahead. Keep talking.
And, I know. You know, you got to have good seafood in it.
Okay, what's your second one? This podcast may go longer. I mean, that's a different podcast.
Well, I made for Christmas Eve. Yeah, Christmas Eve. I made a no-fail prime rib.
Okay.
Why is it no fail? I made prime rib too.
I don't take credit. I take credit for the recipe, but first of all, it has 10 cloves of garlic, so this is not for the people who don't like garlic.
Do you pierce it and push the cloves in?
No.
Okay, just on the outside.
You're making the spice rub, and then you're adding your oil and your fresh garlic all together, and then you're lathering up this whole thing. Just like that. You can cross the fat on the top. The key is you put it in the oven at, I forget what the temperature is, but you're putting it in the oven for 50 minutes. And then you turn off the oven, do not open up the door, and you leave it in there for 2 hours.
Oh,
interesting.
And that is. I've never done it that way. Turn it back on at 300 degrees, that I remember, and you cook it for, depending on your rare liking, but you cook it anywhere from 45 to 55 minutes.
Look at that. I love that one.
Oh. Like butter.
Oh, I like it, butter.
Like butter.
All right, so I teased Alan this before, and then we're going to get to our famous last three questions after you push your stuff. But I made crab cakes last night because I had bought lump crab
I was going to ask, nice big chunks?
Big chunks, yep.
Did you get it from Baltimore?
No, so I got it from Costco. and I am a Costco snob.
I am a Costco snob too, but
I'm
that's still funny.
It is funny, but I will tell you, I've actually.
I thought he was going to say he had it shipped in, especially.
Right, exactly right. No, because I've had that stuff shipped in. I got it from a local seafood place, and this one from Costco. These turned out to be my best crab cakes ever. I mean, I was chopping, slicing, dicing, mixing, doing everything, and I don't know about you guys, and so I get like 2 or 3 recipes, and then. Again, as an entrepreneur who could never follow a franchise system in his life or a recipe, I start making it my own. And so I did it. Of
course.
And then I freaking nailed it last night. I had the family going, Dad, these are like the best ever. And these are
so your daughter didn't actually say do better this time.
No, she said, Dad, these are good. I'm like, can I get that on the record? Because I mean, and I'm not even the seafood guy. My go-to is chicken piccata. So I can do that. I do a great, obviously I do a great gravy. That's why I grew up a Sicilian. But I don't get to make that much either because they're not big meat eaters. So anyway.
Oh, I have a question for you, Chris.
Yeah.
So I was watching the show The Kitchen the other day, and there was this Italian chef on the show who has a restaurant in Brooklyn, which I think I'm going to have to take a road trip to. But she also teaches private classes to how to make pasta.
Okay.
Do you make fresh pasta?
I don't make fresh pasta. I have done it twice.
I've done it a few times.
I do. All right, I made a crucial mistake of thinking that it lasts more than 2 days, though.
Oh,
yeah. Whoops.
Yeah.
Have you done it?
What?
Have you done it?
Fresh pasta?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've made fettuccine, spaghetti.
So growing up as a kid, we did not make fresh pasta because it was too expensive. Right? Because
you need really good flour for it.
Right. Exactly. There you go. Bingo.
Interestingly enough. Katie, who is the other famous chef, she's always in Mexico. You might see her when you go. Katie, who was the chef on the show, says, "Oh, so now am I supposed to add salt?"
Michelle, you're my favorite now.
Supposed to add salt to what?
To when you're mixing it, because I have the mixer, I do it in the mixer. And she goes, "No, I don't add salt." She said, "You put salted water. You have sauces that have salt in it. There's no need for it." But she said the most important thing was, she says, because salt, although it, it gives the flavor, it'll draw out the moisture. And so then your dough becomes a little bit tougher. I said, that's probably what I should do when I make pizza, because I make pizzas all the time. In fact, I made fresh pizza yesterday, and I make it from scratch with the dough. Oh. So I decided to leave out the salt. It was so pliable, so delicious, but it didn't have the flavor because it's, you got to buy really, really good flour. So I was just curious whether you omit salt or not, but
I do. Salt's gone and flour's key. Yep. That's the big thing that I found, because I do mix my own bread and I do that. I will do just a little bit. If I'm doing a big batch, I will do a little bit of salt just for a little bit, but you're right. It does draw it out. And you have to, I add just 1 little teaspoon more of water.
Of what?
Water into
one more teaspoon of water. Okay, so cool.
Yep. So
great. That'll be for next, because I had a carb party last year where we made I made fresh pasta, I made fresh bread, and I made fresh pizza.
Oh, all right. Well, next trip to Atlanta, you know where you're coming. You're coming here and we're cooking. All right. Michelle, you're going to have to tell everybody, how can they get a hold of you? So I know you have a podcast. Let's push the podcast, talk about your website. How can people get a hold of you in the best way?
So heartmetrics.com, and it's Hart, HARTMETRICS.com. I have a connect with me there. You can book a strategic call with my link to my calendar. I am on LinkedIn quite a bit, so people want to follow me there. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook.
Awesome.
But
there are a lot of coaches out there, everybody. You got to go out there, and I've talked about coaching a lot. You got to decide to yourself, are you ready to coach and be coached? Are you ready to accept coaching? Go out there and then start talking to people. And if they start resonating with you and hitting with you, do that. But I would put Michelle on my candidates, because if that's everything you just listened to today is something you want to do, or it's something you're thinking about doing, I'm telling you, man, I've met this lady a couple times and talked to her, and every time I walk away with something and I pick it up. So Michelle, thank you so much for coming on, but I'm not going to let you leave without asking my 3 questions. Number 1, what is the favorite feature of your house? I think I might know.
My deck.
Oh, whoa, loser. I lost that one too. Your deck. Nice. Because we
had it done during COVID.
Okay.
And it's so behind us is all woods and highway, but at night, especially now in the winter with the trees being bare, I can see straight out to the highway. I could see flights taking off from LaGuardia, and I'm in New Jersey. LaGuardia is in New York. And I can see the tip of the George Washington Bridge.
Oh, wow.
That's cool. All right. Number 2, what is a customer service pet peeve of yours?
That's a long list.
Look at that look on her face.
Wait, a customer service pet peeve. So, in other words, a customer who's complaining, or a
You're
customer service?
out there, you're expecting good service, and somebody does not provide this. You've been in the hospitality industry. You've been out there foraging for yourself. And now you go out there and you ask this person for this or this customer.
Yeah, what drives you nuts?
What just drives you insane?
When people have the RBF syndrome.
Resting
you know what RBF
face.
is?
Resting
Relaxed
bitch face. Oh, yeah.
Resting bitch face syndrome.
Thank you. Got it. Bingo. Yeah, that's a good one.
They want to help you, but they really don't want to help you.
I just saw a meme out there that says I can clear that if every morning you just wake up and you do 50 smiles, it'll fix your RBF. So I didn't see RBF, but he said resting bitch face. So that's awesome. There you go. Now we picked up another tip. There you go. 50 smiles and you don't have that. And by the way, don't hire anybody who's going to be your RBF. And then
I'm going to share that with some of my women groups that I do. 50 smiles. 50 smiles. What is it? Cures. Cures RBF. 50 smiles cures RBF.
Just smile 50 times in the morning, and you'll cure your RBF.
And that's before or after you journal and exercise. I just want to know.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? In fact, if you want to do a Zoom call, I'll be the coach. I'll just be sitting there doing this on the other side.
Perfect.
Right. I look like freaking good news is, Ellen, I started putting this on YouTube, so you go out there and check out my faces.
Oh, God.
They'll say, "What's wrong with Chris?"
Oh my God, I think he's glitching.
No, does he have Tourette's?
All right. Number 3, give us a DIY nightmare story.
Anything that we've done before, do it yourself. Well, when we first moved into our house, we had to put in, we decided we could put in a chandelier ourselves. Well, it's still standing. That's a good thing. We're not replacing it.
It hasn't fallen and taken anybody out yet? Okay.
Nor my dining room table, thank goodness. But it did take us about, 5-6 hours to do, and almost a divorce. But we're still married, and the chandelier is still up. So,
right. Before I got married to the lady,
we decided to hire an electrician after that.
Smart move. I did wallpaper.
Oh,
that's a nightmare.
That's
Never,
a nightmare.
ever, especially not with that lady I'm married to right now.
That lady I'm married to.
Whoa, that's brutal. So, Michelle, thank you again for sharing, everybody. Hopefully you guys picked up something. But again, we're all about entertainment, but education. Let's get you up that mountaintop of success. Let's get up there. Let's make it happen. Let's be that guy and that lady that makes it happen. And let's make 2023 an awesome year. Let's get out of here.
Cheers.
Gone.
Bye.